The stereo systems were set up, and just the way the music was amplified. So it's just like walking around with headphones in your ears. But on that note, I can't even really recall seeing like a negative action performed by somebody where it was really disrupting someone else's experience. And to even note, and I mean, I walked around a good several hours throughout the 3 days, where I could literally observe each day. I had a good solid like walking around session observing, and even so, I probably only saw like 3 or 4 total like people being carted on like one of the mobile fire units for like being like just not feeling well, being passed out for whatever reason that might be. And that was pretty amazing to me, just because when I was in Sydney and I went to like a trance show, and trance is a type of music, so I'm not talking about like transvestite or anything like that. I'm talking about trance. It's a style of music. When I went to a show there that was at Sydney Olympic Park, and that show was only for about 5 or 6 hours in length. Such a small crowd. Probably like 5,000, maybe 10,000 people in number. So maybe even like, it's like a quarter of the size that Ultra was on a given day. And I saw at least like 8 people physically like passed out and needing like medical attention. So I don't know why that the case is, but the crowd was just amazing. How everybody was just genuinely got along, and wanted to have a good time, and there wasn't even like really rowdiness either. Like everybody just was there to have a good time, but at the same time be like respectful in that sense. And even like the MC made comments like that, kind of playing along. And I don't want to sound like corny or whatever, but you like I always say like the PLUR acronym: peace, love, unity, and respect. And a big part of like what Ultra is they're bringing together like the world essentially to come together and just get together and unite as one. And I do like that message it represents. Come together, we all get along. And yeah, you could make ties like, oh, that's kind of like what the United Nations is, or other different examples. But it's cool what one form of an interest or communication or product is, being music, and how it can bring together so many people and just be able to enjoy it. Another thing, there were a ton of Asians there, and I didn't realize Asian countries such as Japan, China, Asian Pacific Islands, heck, probably even Thailand, maybe Vietnam, Indonesia, India, Philippines, were represented there at Ultra, and I didn't even realize they had a big EDM following. And actually, Ultra does host an event. Sorry, I'm just, you probably wonder what that music is. That's just the guy that's going to pick up trash here really soon. And I didn't realize EDM was really big in those countries, but it really is. So that was really interesting to see. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure if they did numbers as far as like race that was represented, or like where people were predominantly from at Ultra, I don't think it'd be a majority. Well, probably a majority are from the U.S. just because it is in Miami. But at the same time, it wasn't like heavily light-skinned people or white people. It was just a mixture of everything. It reminded me a lot of like when I went to high school back in Anchorage, Alaska. It's an extremely diverse makeup of student body, and that's something I really like, is diversity, because you get exposed to such new things and just how people act, carry themselves, go about their day-to-day life, and you're just continually exposed to new things, and you get stuck in that comfort zone hanging around similar people, whether it's how they look, how they think, how they operate, how they carry themselves, what their goals are, what their aspirations are, what their family's like, what their occupation is, what their dreams are, you name it, the whole gamma. Quality of the DJ sets, phenomenal. Stages were pretty good for the most part, as far as what they had to offer. Great visuals. There was one stage like you saw in the video where it was like an arch, so you could look up, and there were screens and stuff like that, so that was pretty cool. Another stage was more enclosed. You actually went inside the stage. I did some filming of that, and they actually had part of the ceiling that had panels of visuals would actually retract down and then back up throughout a show, and that was pretty cool too to see. The main stage definitely had the best visuals, and that's where the fireworks were coming from. The only problem is, there's just so many people. It was impossible essentially to get really close in the crowd, just because there were so many people crammed into a tight spot. Technically, I probably could get fairly close on the stage, but you really have to push your way through, and I only went up to a certain point before it really got tight, and I didn't really want to be like inconsiderate and be that person like really pushing people. And yeah, I mean, you could pay for VIP to have maybe a little better seating, but at the same time, you're kind of missing on the atmosphere, in my opinion. Yeah, it's just a great location. Miami's a great location for that. An entire week they were doing Miami Music Week, so there were other events going on afterwards and prior to Ultra starting. And Miami itself as a city, very vibrant, very energetic, and always things going on. Heck, there's parties going on 5, 6, 7 in the morning. Miami Beach is pretty interesting for crowd of people. The one night I kind of went out there, definitely the minority, I would say, for kind of the party scene. Just not as many white people, and I like that. I like not being the majority, that's for sure. And these are just observations from a standpoint to kind of just describe what the scene is. Just make it blatantly clear. I'm not racist or anything. I'm open to just all different type of races and such like that. And I'm a fan of being around people from different parts of the world and stuff like that. So that's one reason Miami really appeals to me. Also the great weather. I didn't really go to the beach that much either. But let's compare Ultra to EDC. Ultra easily much greater in choreographed like stages, quality of DJs, great crowd atmosphere, non-stop action, because there were essentially like 8 or 9 different stages you could go at one throughout the entire festival. So there's always different type of music going on, different DJs playing at different times. The only thing that I probably like about EDC Orlando is it's a little smaller in numbers, so it's not as crowded, so you're able to get closer to the stages. But that's okay. I'm willing to sacrifice. Quality of attractive people. Just say that. Ultra easily outnumbers EDC. And that might be just become a combination of it's Miami, and a lot more international people attend Ultra rather than Orlando. And I actually, kind of going back to the crowd scene and like good vibes, not really seeing any rude behavior or hooliganism. I did see like an article by, I don't know, AMP, whatever that is. It's probably it's a news outlet of some sorts. It said briefly, I didn't read the article, I just saw the title saying like Ultra police reports or arrests or whatever the case, how it kind of titled that part. Record low compared to last year, whatever, substantially lower. So that kind of just